Hey, this is Greg, and in this video we're going over all my must-know tips and tricks for editing video in Canva. So how do you scrub your way through the timeline? Do you even see a timeline? Do you know you can launch some Canva projects and not get the new video editor? Do you know how to force the new video editor? What about the duration option, the show timing option? Do you know you can see multiple timelines in Canva? We're going to go over all of that and more. Make sure you're all set to handle video in Canva, so let's jump into it. The first thing you want to be aware of when you're going to work with video in Canva is that Canva does still have two user interfaces. Now, one of those interfaces gives you the new video editor and all the latest tools for working with video, and the other one does not. And you don't want to end up in that other one if you're working with video. Now, to illustrate that, let's open a couple projects here. Now, the good news is that most projects, if it's something where Canva thinks you might include video, it's going to open in that newer user interface. So anything, that has video in the name, anything like even a presentation, Instagram reel, something where it expects animation or video, you're going to get the new video timeline. So let's illustrate that by just opening this video template here. We're going to open this up and at the bottom already, because I see this duration tab here at the bottom, I already know we're in the new video editor. But if I go back into the home menu here, and this time I'm going to open up something where maybe it doesn't expect that video content, so I'm just going to choose poster, landscape, and I'm going to open this up, and then suddenly we don't get that duration option at the bottom. Okay, so in the other tips upcoming here, I'm going to show you exactly why we need this new video editor, but for now, just know that you're in that new video editor if you get this duration option at the bottom. Now, there is a way to force and make sure you always get this. Now, I showed you before that if you choose something like a presentation or video where it expects video, good news is you're going to get it automatically. But this poster landscape, which is 24 by 18 inches, that did not give us the new interface because we're in this poster mode and it doesn't necessarily expect that you're going to include video. However, what if we did want to include something that's 24 by 18 inches in terms of our dimensions, but we still want that video editor? Could we force it? Well, yes, you actually can. I've discovered if you come and use this custom size option. So let's change this to inches here. Let's make it 24. And we're going to make it 18. So exactly the same dimensions here, but this time we're opening something via this custom size option. And when we create this here, suddenly we get the duration option, which we did not get before. So just know that you want to be in this new video editor, this new user interface that Canva has for working with video. And one way to do that is forcing the issue by using this custom size option. But you also can just open sort of a preset here where it expects you to include video. Just know that the way to double check is to make sure you're getting this duration option at the bottom of your user interface. Now, in the first tip, we talked about this duration option being the clue to letting you know you're in the new video editor. So why is this so important and crucial? Well, let's illustrate that by looking at these examples again. So in this one, we have the duration option. And if I jump over to this project, we do not have the duration option. Now, another element of that dual interface system that Canva has is that at any point in time, you can switch back and forth between sort of this thumbnail timeline view at the bottom and this page view where you can go from page to page and scroll this way. So scrolling vertically versus scrolling horizontally. Now, if I come back to this video editor one, I can do the same thing here where I can go to page system and I lose that duration option temporarily, but when I bring this back, I get the duration option. But in that one that I opened as a poster, even if I bring this back from this version to this version, I never get that duration option. Now, why is that duration option crucial? Well, how long is this video clip that's on this first page and how long is this video clip that's on the second page? Well, if I click on a frame, I can see that up here, 38.3 seconds. If I click to this next one, it still says 38.3. Okay, because that's the total time of these videos, right? If I want to see the individual times of each of these videos, I actually have to come in here and try to select on the page, and then I can see 31.8. And if I come to this page here and I try to select on the page here, the actual video on the page, 6.4 seconds. So I can see it, but it's harder, it's less obvious. They look the same to me if I'm just looking at these two thumbnails here. However, we go back to that option here where we have the duration option. If we click on that duration option, boom, a couple things that are very important for video editing happen. First of all, our timeline makes more sense now. The 31.8 seconds is a lot bigger and longer than the 6.4 seconds. So now suddenly scale-wise, these match up as you would expect them to. The other thing that's very important, now with this duration option clicked on, suddenly we have this playhead where we can scrub through our timeline, and this is going to be crucial for editing video, for navigating through your video, making edits. So you really have to have this duration option, and you have to have this playhead if you want to edit effectively. Now, can you come in here and can you make some edits in this format? Yeah, you can. You can do things like you can click on the video itself. You can come up here and use this trim icon and get into this little timeline up here, but it is a lot less user-friendly than if you're in this version here where you have this duration option. So make sure when you're video editing Canva that you do have this duration option, because suddenly you can see things in a scale that makes sense along the bottom here, and you also have this playhead, which is very crucial. Okay, I mentioned this playhead being crucial for being able to scrub through your video and make edits, but let's just illustrate this a little farther. So I can just drag it along and I can scrub through my video. You can also at any point in time just hit the space bar and it'll start to play from wherever the playhead was, and then you hit the space bar again and it's going to stop. So again, just use that space bar to start the playhead, space bar again to stop the playhead. Now another helpful trick, you can use your arrow keys to nudge the playhead sort of a frame at a time, forwards and backwards. So this is really helpful when you're going through and you're trying to find that precise moment where maybe you want to make an edit. So let's say I'm going along here and I'm watching this person on the frame here and I want to make an edit right when he's out of the frame. I don't know why that would be important, but let's say it was important. So we're scrubbing through here. Oh, he's just out of the frame. That's where I want to make my edit. So I want to cut my scene there so I can then just come to the end here. You're going to hold your sort of cursor right over the end of the video until you get this little icon here. Then you can drag and it's going to snap right to that playhead. So now if we play this all the way through, we can see that the scene now stops as soon as he exits the frame, and it's going to transition to this next video clip we have. Now I did that from the end of the video. I could also come back to the beginning of the video. So again, just come through here, use my arrow keys to scrub backwards, and then say, hey, I found right here a point where I want to cut off this first part of the video. So I could just drag from the front, same thing, it's going to snap. And so very easily, when we have this playhead, we can now scrub through, we can make these edits, we can make these trims, and it's just a much more intuitive way to do it than if we did not have this interface, okay? So scrubbing through and making edits, this is a huge advantage we get when we have this duration option and this interface with the playhead. So make sure you play around, get comfortable scrubbing through your videos, and make it edits in this way. Another helpful tip, you're probably aware you can use this sort of scrubby slider at the bottom here, and you can zoom in and out on your sort of Canva design. You could also come under here and do the same sort of thing where you fit it to scene or choose 50%. So you have all these options here with this scrubby timeline, a scrubby slider down here. But did you know you could also click right here and you're switching between zooming from zooming in on your page and your design to now zooming in on the timeline. So if I do this suddenly and I click this, and you see how it switches to that little film strip view, and now suddenly if I zoom in here, I'm zooming in on my timeline. So I'm not actually making this video longer. I'm just making it a little bit easier to come in and work with this timeline because I can see it a little bit better. Now I can scrub through. It's not moving quite so fast. I can still do all the same things where I can use my arrow keys. I can use my space bar to start and stop the playhead. So it doesn't really change the functionality here. You're just zoomed in so you're seeing things a little bit more closely, and sometimes that can be very helpful. So just be aware you have this option here, and it is going to control whether you're zooming in on your scene or whether you zoom in on that timeline. And so that's a helpful feature to be aware of. We talked about the importance of this scrubby playhead, but one thing I did not mention, if at any point in time you have this positioned anywhere on a video clip, you can then right click on that video clip and you have this split page option, or you could use the S keyboard shortcut. And when you use that, suddenly you're going to split that clip into sort of different pages, it calls it, but basically you've divided it up into different sections. So now if you suddenly want to take another video clip, move it in between those two, you can just drag and drop. So this splitting option is very helpful when you're doing video edits. Maybe you want to cut away from a scene, but you want to keep the other half. You might come back to it. So instead of trimming, you might use this split option. And then the other part of this tip is just that then when you have multiple clips down here at the bottom, you can just drag and drop and reposition them very organically, very easily, very intuitive user interface. So make sure you're aware of this split option. So again, anytime you have it anywhere on a video clip, you can right click on that video clip to get into that split option, or you can just use the S keyboard shortcut. So I just tapped S on the keyboard and suddenly I've split that into two, and suddenly now I can reposition, put stuff in between there. So make sure you're aware of this option, the ability to be able to split video clips. Another thing you want to be aware of is just all the animation options and presets that exist in Canva. So basically, so far we've been looking at just sort of video clips. So a video clip itself has its own built-in animation, but you might be thinking about static objects that you want to add movement to bring them into sort of the animated video world. And so any of these objects, I can click on any element in my Canva design. And if you come up under this animate option, suddenly you're going to see some different element options and some page options. And if you click on text specifically, then you have text animation. But if I clicked on this option here, then we see we have element animations. So element animations, text animations, and then we also have page animations. So let's just start with the text here. So if I just hover over any of these, we can sort of see the different animation we're going to get based on these different options here. And then if you click on any of these, a lot of that time they're going to have different options underneath as well. So in other words, for this ascend option, do I want it to show just when it switches to this page, when it enters this page or this scene, this clip, or do I want it to do it on exit, or maybe I want it to animate on enter and on exit? So you have all these animation options to be aware of that can be applied to text, that can be applied to elements themselves, graphics, and then also that can be applied to the whole page. So if I go into these page options here and then I hover over these, you see these animations are now being applied to the whole page. Now you even have another option here. So if you click on a scene itself down here, or actually if I just click on a page itself here, which is sort of the same thing as clicking on a scene, I guess, then I get this magic animate option, and this magic animate option is basically going to analyze your scene and make suggestions for a style to apply to the whole page. So it's recommending this bold style, but we can check out these other different options, and these options are going to be applied to the whole page. So sort of like page animations, but it's making the suggestion for you. And another thing you can do is if you click on one clip and then I'm going to shift click to select all of my clips, then I could apply a style and it would be applied on over all of these clips that I have selected. So it would be an easy way to add animation sort of to the entire scene. Now, if I just switch to another project here, we've been looking at video clips so far, but a lot of times you might be using these animated features to just take static elements and bring static elements to life. So let me turn on the sound real quick so you can hear this, and I'll hit play and we'll just watch a little bit of this here. So you can see that this really is just static elements, but we're using all those animated features in Canva sort of to bring this project to life. Okay, so very simple example, I'll stop it there, but you get the idea. Maybe you're a content creator that has a lot of video content. You can still use animated effects like this to sort of bring it to life even farther with other animated elements and other text elements. Or maybe you're someone who creates a lot of static content, images, text, and things like that, and you sort of want to bring it into a video format, give it some life, give it some animation. And these are both times when you want to be aware of all those animation options you have in Canva. Again, select anything, come up here under the animate option. And once you select an animation, then it's going to show up here. But if I remove the animation, you see it just says animate by default. But then when you select something, then that's what's going to show up here. But just a very easy way to bring some more animation into your project. Along with all those animation presets we just talked about, Canva also has a bunch of pre-made transitions that can be applied between the clips within your video. This is another great way to add some extra interest to your video. Let's just see how this works. So at any point in time, you can move your cursor between scenes. We have an extra scene here, so let me just delete this clip right here. But you can just move your cursor in between two scenes at any point in time. You're going to get this plus, which actually adds a page in between, or this option down here for adding a transition. So if I click on that transition icon, then suddenly the transitions menu comes up. And just like with animation presets, you can sort of hover over these and sort of get a preview of what each of these is going to do. So maybe we like this color white here, so I could choose that. And then if we go ahead and play through, we'll see that at the end of this, hit the play button. Once it plays through, then we see we get that transition in between slides. Now, another way to do this is you can right click on any of your slides or clips, and you can choose add transition this way. And when you choose it this way, it's going to apply it after the scene, not before the scene. So it's going to show up here after the scene. But again, you can go through and say, hey, maybe I like this one here, this flow one here. So you could choose that one, and you can see that that puts it right after the slide as you transition to the next slide. So again, let's hit the space bar to sort of play through this. and we'll see as it transitions, we get that nice transition from one slide to the next. Now, if we right click on this last clip, we're not going to get that option, of course, because there is nothing after it. But if we come back to this, another way you can do this is you can right click and choose change transition once it's already up, or this would be add transition if there was nothing there yet. But under this menu here, you can also select something and you can apply it to all pages. So let's just say I wanted this circle wipe, or I wanted to get rid of them all. With this none option, I could do that, apply between all pages, and then suddenly it's gotten rid of them all. So we only have 3 clips here, so not a big deal. But if you had like 10 clips and you knew you wanted to apply the same transition between all of them, or at least as a starting point, you could very easily save some time by using that apply to all pages option. So this is transitions, just another way you can add some interest to your videos when editing in Canva, so make sure you're aware of this feature. So another way you can enhance a video is by adding some appropriate audio. So in Canva, you would just come under the Elements menu here, and then scroll down until you find the audio category. We'll click See All, and then in here you can search by different search terms, or a lot of times you might just look for a particular instrument or mood up here. So maybe something upbeat would make sense for this video, so I'll choose that. It's going to filter the results down here. And then to preview any of these, I would just sort of click on the playhead for any of these. We get a little bit of a music preview, so maybe I check this one out right here. Takes a little seconds to load every now and then, and it'll give you a little preview. And then if you find something you like, you can just sort of click and grab and hold on to it and then drag it over here, drop it right into your timeline. Of course, it aligned it with the playhead here, and my playhead was not back at start, so I'll just click this and drag it to the start here. Other things you can do is you can double click to get into this timeline, and then of course you could scrub through here and adjust the part that's actually playing, but we're going to take it back so it starts at the very beginning. And then if you want to preview everything and play it, of course you're just dragging your playhead like we've learned how to do before, just clicking play, and we'll check out and see how this suits with our video. So that is pretty cool, and that definitely adds something to this. And then, of course, if you wanted to play the whole song here, the whole track, of course, we'd have to have more video clips. Otherwise, it's going to sort of end when your video ends. And so if you did want to fade out here, you could come up under audio effects. Since you have some audio effects, you have some fade ins and fade outs. And so if I do fade out and I start to drag that, you can see how this adjusts down here. And then, so then suddenly the sound's going to fade out at the end of our video. Let's just check that out real quick. So now we have the nice fade out effect at the end. So some very simple controls here. And then you also have something called beat sync here. Let me just jump over to a different video. So I have this video here. Let me just hit play so we can check out a second of this. Actually, that's not the copy of that I thought. Let's try this one. I think this one has a different music track. Okay, so with this music track here, the idea was to sort of try to sync my animation with the beat of the music. And of course, you can try to do that manually, but if you wanted to have it sort of all automated for you, that's where this beat sync option comes into play. So with the audio track selected, you come up here under beat sync, and then you would just do sync now. And it's going to attempt to go ahead and make your clips and your effects sort of line up with the beat of the music. It's going to take a second here, and then you're going to go ahead and come down here and play it and preview it. So not perfect, and I'm not going to go all the way through this, but what it tries to do is it tries to have, basically those scene transitions and effects. It tries to have that on the beat of the music. Now, I think this is going to be a hit or miss feature depending on what you're trying to do. This feature isn't going to always work perfectly, but sometimes it's a good place to start. Just see if you can get some improvement just by using that feature there. But definitely adding audio in Canva to your videos is something that can definitely bring them to life. So make sure you're aware of these audio options inside of Canva. Okay, let's look at another example. We have this video clip here, so I'll hit play. We have the moon traveling through the night sky, and I've added some audio in the background just for fun. But what if I wanted to have some text appear on this video, but maybe I don't want it to appear instantly? In other words, I'm at the 5-second mark right here, but even if I add some text with my playhead at the 5-second mark, so let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to come up here, and let's go back up here to the Elements tab. We'll add some text. So I'll just go under my text menu actually and click a heading, and we'll say hello moon, something like this. So we have this text, and even though I added it with the playhead at the 5-second mark, if I scrub through, it's actually on the entire clip. What if I only wanted this to appear starting at the 5-second mark? Well, I could delete this, and you probably have already said, well, we learned about the clip, so we could come in here. We learned we could clip our timeline, so we could come to 5 seconds, and let's scrub and find that mark, and then we'll come in here and we'll right click and we'll split this page. And now if I'm on this second clip here, now if I add the heading and then I scrub through, yes, it only appears at that 5-second mark, but then it appears for the rest of this clip here. Maybe I want it to fade out again. It just gets a little confusing when you have to clip the page each time. Maybe there's a better way. Well, there actually is another option here in Canva, so let me just hit Control Z a couple times just to get back to this full timeline, no longer split at the bottom. And again, let's go to that 5-second mark. And at this point in time, we could go ahead and right there at 5 seconds. It actually doesn't matter if I'm at the 5-second mark, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this heading now. I'm not going to worry about Hello Moon this time. We're just going to have a heading there. But what if I want to control where this element here appears on the page? Well, there is a show timing option which lets you see the element timing for each element in your animation, in your video. So if I right click on this, I have this show timing option. And this is a crucial option when you're working with this sort of video or animation. You really have to be able to control element timing. So if I click that, now suddenly I'm getting a timeline for the video clip below, but I'm also now getting a timeline specifically for this element. And just the way I can drag and adjust my clip here, I can drag and adjust this element timing. So now I've pulled it so the element only starts right here, and I can go to the opposite end, and I could grab that opposite end and pull it back. So my heading's just going to appear for a little bit here. And so now if I go ahead and hit play, now it shows up, it disappears. And just like we added animation to elements before, we could come on this and we could come under the effects here, under animate, under these animate options. And maybe we're going to have this fade option here on enter and exit. So we'll choose both here. And now if I play through again, now we get it to fade in and we get it to fade out. So now suddenly with this show timing option, we have the ability to control where different elements come into and out of our video clip, into and out of our animation. So if you're ever editing video or animation in Canva, it's really crucial to understand this show timing feature. Again, just for a reminder, let me go under elements here. I did it with text before, but it could be with anything at all. So let's just grab another moon image. Let's just do a graphic this time, something like this. We'll put this here. And if we wanted this to show up somewhere on our screen, again, it's showing the timing option because I always brought that up before. But let me hide it for a second just to remind you, you have to click on something. Then when it's highlighted, you come under here, you do the show timing. Then of course you can adjust where it shows up in your page. And boom, now suddenly we can control where that moon comes into our page and then where it fades out of our page. So this makes this show timing option a crucial part of being able to make edits here in Canva when you're working with video or animation. Now, that show timing option is helpful, but we're only seeing one element timing at a time. So what if I wanted to get this moon to line up with the text we put on here? Well, I could scrub back and okay, here's my text and here's my moon. And so my moon timing goes from 7.1 to 13.6. And let me come back and select this. So now I can see that element timing. Okay, I need to move that to 7.1. And you could do it this way. You could do it, but if you're thinking there's got to be a better way, well, then you're in luck. There is a better way. There is actually a way to show multiple timelines in once at Canva. And there are definitely some users that don't know about that show timing that I've just shown you already, and then even less know about this multiple timeline trick I'm about to teach you. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go under the position menu up here so you can see all your layers, and then you're just going to click on a layer and then shift click or control click to select other additional layers. And now that we've selected them both, you notice how this icon changed down here. Let me just switch off of it by clicking one. We get, if you just have one selected, you're seeing that timeline for just that one, that element timing for one. And again, this will go away if you right click and do a hide timing. So you got to make sure that you have the show timing turned on. And then whenever you have clicked, it's going to show it down here. But then if you control or shift click to select multiple layers up here, now suddenly you're getting this with this arrow icon. And if I click this arrow icon, whoa, okay, this is what we were looking for. This is what we were looking for, a way to see multiple timelines at once. Now, if I want to line these up, all I have to do is go like this, extend it like that, and wow, that is so much easier. So you got to remember that you can see multiple timings at once in Canva if you just come under your layers panel and then you're going to click and select multiple layers at once. Now, if you have things on screen where you can see them both, then you could click and drag in here, but now I'm accidentally selecting the background, and so I wanted to just click and I could shift click here. I could do it that way, but usually it's easier to just come up to your layers panel here. So again, you're going to go under the position menu. Let me just get out of here for a second just to make sure you know. You're going to go under the position menu, you're going to go under layers, and then here's your layers menu, and then you can click on one, Control click to keep adding more to that group, or you can shift click if you have a bunch of things in a row that you want to select. And then when they're selected like this, make sure you have that show timing turned on. So right click, show timing, and then this arrow here to expand things. And now suddenly you can see multiple timelines. This is so crucial. Let me show you another example here. So that's not the one I wanted to show you. This one here. So this one here, again, I have a video where all of these text blocks come on screen at the same time as the text does, and they all have some animation added to them. And the only way I could get them to line up nice and easy like this is by using this trick where you select them all and then you use that show timing option. So in other words, if I just go down to one of them, I'm only going to see one, but if I shift click and select all of these, suddenly I'm seeing all of them. Now, something to watch out for if you're using this multiple timeline trick. I could move my playhead along, so where in the video I'm just seeing this red text block. If I want to update the text, you might think, well, I can just click on it. The only problem if I click on it, well, I can because it happens to be the top layer. But let me go back to a different one. Let's go back to this. Now I'm over this block. I'm going to click on it. Well, it's selected this one instead, even though that's not where I had my playhead, because it's by default, it's going to go and select whatever is the highest in your hierarchy, not necessarily what's showing while you're under the playhead. So if I wanted to come back and adjust this text for this layer here, what I would probably do, since they're aligned on top of each other, if they were in different parts of the screen, it would be easier to select, but since they're on top of each other and I want them to show in the same place, I would maybe drag this to the top real quick, then I could come in here, then I could edit, and then I would push it back down to where I want. But another good strategy that I like to follow is a lot of times if I have text like this where I know it's going to be showing up on top of each other, it's going to be tougher to edit later. A lot of times I will do this up front in my planning phase. I might have things on different part of the screen at that point, so they're easier to work with. In other words, maybe I would have this block over here or something and that one over here, and then I would use my ability to select everything to come under a range, to center a line, a middle line, get it all lined up, put it where I want after the fact. So a lot of times I will adjust my text and all those things first, knowing I'm going to have this problem later on. Otherwise, you really do have to come under the layer stack and sometimes drag things to the top just so you can edit text more easily, okay? So the multiple timeline thing, I'm showing you this because it's super, super helpful, but I did want you to be aware of this one potential issue. If you do have things that are aligned, even though you may have your playhead where you're only seeing something, if there's something else above it that is aligned in the same spot, then when you go to select it, it will select something else. So you might want to think about in the planning phase when you're setting things up, because you could make it a little easier on yourself by taking care of that first and then aligning things together and working with the multiple timelines to put things exactly where you want in the video. Okay, so we've reached the end of this video. Thanks for sticking to the end. I really hope you learned something. I tried to pack it with all the stuff that I feel like is the most important things that are really going to allow you to get the most out of editing video in Canva. Again, thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, feel free to subscribe below. Click the notification icon if you want to get notifications when I come out with a new video. So again, thanks.